It is Saturday Morning Cartoons on Saturday, April 6th. If you happen to hear a noise in the background, that is our dilithium centrifuge, which is warming up because Constance and I are preparing to return to our home planet, Milotron. Our work here is nearly finished.
But mine is never finished. Were you complaining about noise in the background? I heard that.
No, I was. No, dear.
Happy Saturday. I'm making some kind of apple spice whole grain, extremely whole grain, weird grains mixture muffins to go with the very chunky stew-like miso soup leftover that we had yesterday for breakfast.
Miso soup and muffins.
Because we have to eat hot food right now or perish. It was 36 this morning again. That's wrong. It's probably colder where you are, so I should just shut up.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hurricane winds in the Midwest, but I'm making the sign of Osiris shivering.
You're not home.
Well, we're coming up on the highest of the high holy days of Thelema, April 8th, 9th, and 10th. And we've been talking about the advent of the writing of the Book of the Law that took place on those dates in 1904. And I've been reading from the Equinox of the Gods, which was Crowley's attempt to summarize the sequence of events leading up to it. It's something that he wrote a few years later. It wasn't his contemporary notes. And we're at the little section here. I shall make what I call an inventory of the furniture of the temple, the circumstances of the case. I shall describe the conditions of the phenomenon. I was waiting for the do, as if it were any other unexplained event in nature. And then he gave the time, and then he gave the place. It was Cairo. And then part 3 was the people. And and he labeled the people by letters. A, myself. Okay, this is what we talked about yesterday. And there's about 3.5 pages about himself, and which took up all of our time yesterday. We're now at B, the second person in the cast of characters here, Rose Edith Kelly. Okay. Born 1874. Okay, so she's a little older than Crowley. July 23rd. It's a cusp day between Cancer and Leo. It's my brother's birthday also. About 95 or 1895, she married one Major Skerritt, R-A-M-C, and lived with him some 2 years in South Africa. He died in 97. So she was a widow. Okay. She indulged in a few feebly executed intrigues till August 12th, 1903, when she became my wife, becoming pregnant with a girl born July 28th, 1904. So the child was conceived during this period that we've been talking about. Okay. But I digress. Health admirably robust at all points. She was both active and enduring as our travels in Ceylon and across China prove. They just walked across China for their honeymoon, okay? Figure perfect, neither big nor little. Face pretty without being petty. She only missed beauty by lacking Goethe's touch of the bizarre. I was going to say something, but I better not. Okay. Personality intensely powerful and magnetic, intellect absent, but mind adaptable to that of any companion. So she could always say the right nothing. Charm, grace, vitality, vivacity, tact, manners, all inexpressibly fascinating. From her mother, she inherited dipsomania. That's a polite word for alcoholism. As bad a case for stealth, cunning, falsehood, treachery, and hypocrisy as the specialist I consulted had ever known. This was, however, latent during the satisfaction of sexuality, which ousted all else in her life as it did mine. Education, strictly social and domestic, she did not even know schoolgirl French. Pygmalion, okay. She had read nothing, not so much as novels. She was a miracle of perfection, as poetic, ideal mistress, wife, mother, house president, nurse, pal, and comrade.
Woo-hoo.
How's that, comrade?
I love that, comrade.
The next person. Okay, that's all he had to say about Rose. Okay. The next person involved, C, our head servant, Hassan or Hamid, I forget which, a tall, dignified, handsome athlete of about 30, spoke good English and ran the household well. Always there and never in the way. I suppose I hardly ever saw the servants under his authority. I do not even know how many there were. D, Lieutenant Colonel somebody, beginning, I think, with a B. Married, middle-aged, with manners like rules of a prison. I cannot remember that I ever saw him, but the apartment was sublet to me by him. So in other words, he was a strict asshole landlord. Okay. As most of them are. But I digress. Next person, Brugschicht. And I'll spell that because I have no idea how to pronounce Brugsch. Brugsch Bey of the Bulak Museum dined with us once to discuss the stele in his charge and to arrange for its, quote, abstruction, unquote. Crowley hated that word. He didn't know what the fuck it meant, as does anybody else. His French assistant curator, who translated the hieroglyphs on the stele for us. A Mr. Back, owner of the Egyptian News, an hotel, a hunk of railroad, etc., dined once. Otherwise, we knew nobody in Cairo except natives, occasionally hobnobbed with General Dixon, who had accepted Islam, carpet merchants, pimps, jewelers, and such small deer. Contrary to hints in one of my diaries, were inserted deliberately to mislead for some silly, no reason, unconnected with magic. Okay, if you've ever kept a a diary, you might insert things that that were important to you at the time and for you to remember, but truly nobody else's business. Okay, and I think that's what he's talking about. Oh my gosh, it just became dark in here. Okay, I hope I have enough light to read now. Jeez. The events leading up to the writing of the, okay, this is part 4. The events leading up to the writing of the Book of the Law, I summarize them from Equinox 1, Volume 7. March 16th, tried to show the sylphs to Rose. She was in a dazed state, stupid, possibly drunk, possibly hysterical from pregnancy. She could see nothing, but could hear. She was fiercely excited at the messages and passionately insistent that I should take them seriously. I was annoyed at her irrelevance and her infliction of nonsense upon me. She had never been in any state even remotely resembling this. Though I had made the same invocation in full in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid during the night which we spent there in the previous autumn. March 17th. More apparently nonsensical messages. This time spontaneous. I invoke Thoth, probably as in Liber 64, and presumably to clear up the muddle. March 18th. Thoth evidently got clear through to her, for she discovers that Horus is addressing me through her and identifies him by a method utterly excluding chance or coincidence and involving knowledge which only I possessed. Some of it arbitrary, so that she or her informant must have been able to read my mind as well as if I had spoken it. Then she challenged to point out his image. Passes by many such to fix on the one on the stele. So he challenged her to point out the image. He went to the museum. Okay, we know that. Cross-examination must have taken place between March 20th and 23rd. March 20th. Success in my invocation of Horus by breaking all the rules at her command. The success convinced me magically and encouraged me to test her as above mentioned. I should certainly have referred to the stele in my ritual had I seen it before that date. I should fix Monday, March 21st, for the visit to the Bulak. Between March 23rd and April 8th, the hieroglyphs on the stele were evidently translated by the assistant curator at the Bulak either into French or English. I'm almost sure it was French, and versified, as now printed, by me. Those are all the verses that we see reproduced and inserted after the dictation of the Book of the Law, inserted later. Between these two dates, too, my wife must have told me that her informant was not Horus or Rahur Kuit, but a messenger from him named Aiwas. I thought she might have faked this name from constantly hearing Aiwa, the word for yes in Arabic. She could not have invented the name of this kind, though. Her next best was to find a phrase like balmy puppy for a friend, or corrupt name like Newberg into an obscene insult. Okay, probably anti-Semitic. The silence of my diaries seemed to prove that she gave nothing more of importance. I was working out the magical problem presented to me by the events of March 16th through 21st. Any questions that I asked her were either unanswered or answered by a being whose mind was so different than mine that we failed to converse. All my wife obtained from him was to command me to do things magically absurd. He would not play my game. I must play his. Tomorrow is April 7th, and that's the next entry in our narrative here. And that's where we'll pick up tomorrow. So, until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. And do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.